Hello, welcome back to Laurent Collective Podcast.
Hello.
We are here today with our mugs because it is very cold outside, and so we'll be taking pauses to sip tea to keep ourselves warm because we have turned off our space heater. So
Yeah, it's really cold here
it
today.
is really cold. I know we're complaining, and people are in much colder places, but
Yeah,
we've gotten used to milder weather here. We'll get through it. We'll survive.
we'll survive.
So today we thought there's some things happening in real time here. And so we thought we would talk about what it's like to just keep learning things. And we've talked about this a little bit in the business side of things before, of trying new things in your business. But we're middle-aged. I'm okay with saying it. Sometimes I'm not. I don't like when I have read news articles and it says like middle-aged women suffer from blah, 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 or whatever. I'm like, oh, that I should read that. That's actually me. We are middle-aged. I think there is I don't want to say overall. No statement I make ever is overall. But there is some places, some things that happen, I think, in middle age where you're like, all right, cool. I'm good with this. I'm going to stay with this.
Yeah.
And I think we're learning a lot about how we keep learning, how we keep challenging ourselves, I don't know, I'm probably using all these wrong terms, but like how you keep your like mind fresh and stuff like that. And sometimes it's stuff that we don't really want to do either, that we are in some ways forced to learn. And sometimes it's stuff that is fun. I feel like the things you're learning right now are more fun than what I'm learning right now, but that's okay. And I think some things are for a season. So we'll just dive right in and tell you like what is something that I am currently in the process of learning. Pat has already gone through this, is I am learning how to drive in the UK. For some of you that are in the States, you're probably like, what? You know how to drive? You've maybe seen me drive or been in the car.
They just drive on the other side of the road.
Yeah, so you're thinking they just drive on the other side of the road. Actually, there's a lot of things that are different. So the first year you move here, unless you're from an EU country, I think that's still the case now. I'm not sure if Brexit has changed that. EU or Commonwealth country, I think too, that you can move here and your license can transfer. As an American, I see why now. At first, I think we both thought, this is dumb. Why can't our license just transfer? But now I understand it, that you can drive for 1 year, but then after that, you have to get a UK license. So that means if you have a car and you want insurance and that kind of thing, you would need we don't have a car. We want to be able to rent a car and that type of thing. And so Pat has already done this. He has his license. He passed in the autumn. And I am now doing it just because I like to drive and I haven't driven in a while, and that kind of thing. And so we had to...
Well, let's just put it in perspective. So we've lived here almost 7 years.
Yes.
And we've driven a car...
Once?
One time.
Once? Yeah.
And that was 9 months into us moving here. So...
And we are lucky because we live in London. We can get pretty much everywhere we need to go without a car. And there's plenty, frankly, there's plenty of places in the UK and Europe you can get to and you don't need a car as well. I think we have some places we'd like to explore, go hiking and things like that are a little bit more in the middle of nowhere that you do need a car to get to, that you can't. There might be a bus that goes there, but it only comes every 4 hours.
And
something like that.
To be honest, some of the cheaper places to stay are a little bit
like
off the
cheaper
beaten path
Airbnbs and stuff like that are not where a direct
so we
train
need a
goes.
car for those.
So that's why we decided we have decided we would like to explore a bit more, and that means if we want to do it in a cheaper, more affordable way for our family, we need to drive. So we're not buying a car. Well, I don't want to say ever, but currently our choice is we're not having a car in London because there's just lots of other expenses, and we frankly, sure, there's an occasion where I think we're like, oh, that would have been nice to take the car here, especially with train strikes and everything right now, but in general, we don't need it.
It's not that big of a deal.
No, exactly. So all that to say, we already had to study and pass our theory test, which is like the knowledge of like signs and things like that. We had lots of laughs when we were doing that and studying for it because I don't ever remember having questions in the States about what do you do when sheep are crossing and things like that. But it's super common here. Not in London, but when you get out.
They had a computer version of the test, which I'm sure they probably have that now in the States. But like
we are old when we
so I don't remember ever doing there's like a kind of
was yours a written exam that you did for your US one when you were 16? I'm trying to remember if mine was on a computer.
I feel like it was like a Scantron thing.
I think that might have been what mine was
that's
too.
Kind of like that.
It's definitely on a computer now.
But the one here,
we said we were middle-aged already. We're totally
so the one here was definitely more. They had a multiple choice version, part of it, but then there was another part that's feels like you're kind of you're a virtual reality where you're driving a car and you have to do certain things.
For hazards, you're looking for hazards, right?
And things like that.
And you have to click a button when you see a hazard.
So anyways, yeah, it was a process, and it is pretty difficult, actually, the theory test, I think, in some ways.
So we passed the theory test. I've done that. But now I'm on to driving. And because of COVID and everything like that, getting a driving test, so you have to take a driving test, getting a driving test within London is virtually impossible. Some people have done it. We can't seem to get one. And so I am doing one outside of London. Pat did his outside of London as well. So it sounds crazy, but take an hour train into London to go outside of London. So it's like 2 hours to get there. That's okay. It will hopefully be the thing. But I think I had my first driving lesson. So basically I have a test later in a month or so. And you want to do some driving lessons before that, because for those of us that have been driving for a long time, they'll pick up on the things, which this was very clear
some of the bad
right
habits,
away.
Maybe
some of the bad habits that we have because we have been driving so long, or things that we think in the United States, but then are different here. And so I got in the car, I was so nervous, and Pat was too, so he can say that when he was getting ready for this.
Definitely.
So basically the first set of lessons that I have was a 2-hour lesson, and it was to basically assess where I was at to see like if I could try and find an earlier test, or if we should keep my test or move it back. We're keeping my test where it is right now. We'll see after next time. But the lady was amazing and so lovely and everything. What I found during it, I found how nervous I was. Like I said, I do love driving. I feel like I'm a very confident driver, but for whatever reason, whether it was that someone was watching me, I think it was totally that someone was watching every move. But also I was nervous of, you were the one that drove the last time.
Yeah, the last time here.
I've driven when we've been back in the States to visit, but I've actually never driven here. Or have I? Did I drive? I can't remember. I may have driven I think actually I take that back. I did drive for a little bit, but not very long. Not enough to feel confident, basically.
Not on the crazy windy roads where it's like...
No, I made him do that. I'll still make you
like
do
a
that.
brick wall, and then it's like a
cliff to the sea.
The sea, or whatever.
I just was the one in the car. I was like, careful.
Yeah.
So I got in the car, and the first thing that I realized as I'm learning this, I think approaching it, I thought, I know what I'm doing. But then when I got in the car, I realized, ooh, I have a lot to learn still on this. And it's so weird if it's a skill that you've had since you were, literally since I was 16, and sure, I've improved on it since then. To suddenly, and the instructor was so great. She kept saying it has to be so weird to start from scratch on something you've been doing for so long, because that's basically what it is. It's actually the part of driving on the wrong side of the road. Well, for me, like that didn't actually bother me, because we walk and we look that way and look for oncoming traffic, and we're in buses and stuff. So, and you tend to walk on that side or pass people on the left side on the two, all that stuff. Yeah. So that part, actually, I was worried about going onto the wrong side. That was not a bother. It was more of just some of the other stuff. How I hold my hands. If I want to pass this test, I cannot be holding my hands in the way that I have, or I cross sometimes, which when we're on the left side of the road and you're turning like that, it actually does cause a problem. I don't understand why that's a big deal, but it was making me take the turns too tight. And that kind of stuff. You're smiling because you learned all this stuff.
I went through it. So yeah.
And so it was 2 hours of me being super nervous. I came home and like my back of my neck and my shoulders hurt because and this is totally my doing. She was making me totally making me feel comfortable. It was not her fault. It was me. I was gripping the steering wheel to the point that I was supposed to be moving my hands, and I would be trying to hold with my left hand. She's like, you have to let go. Just breathe. Yeah. It's okay. And it was such a reminder as I was back on the train ride back, that it's challenging, but it's good that this is challenging me. I know once I feel more comfortable and stuff like that, I just need to get more confident, and more practice is what will get me there. But it was the idea that I was like, oof, I suddenly realized I really do have a lot to learn, because, you go into it thinking you don't. And even understanding like the speed limit signs, there usually aren't speed limit signs. You just have to know which roads are which and that kind of thing. So there was one we were on, and she was like, it is 60 here. And I was like, it's 60 here? Yeah. So even things like that, I need to refresh and go back through that and that kind of thing. I was exhausted last night from it, and that sounds so silly that I was exhausted from a 2-hour lesson. But it was, again,
you were so tense the whole time.
It was tense the whole time.
That like release of adrenaline, probably too, like just exhausted you. I'm sure.
I mean, I did come home and do some yoga to try and like myself, but I don't know if it helped completely. All that to say, I realized how challenging it is to force yourself to learn something new at our age. And I don't know that it matters what age you are. I feel like you go through these certain, I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. You go through these certain stages of life. Like, our kids are in a constant state of learning right now. They're forced to because of school, but they're learning so much other things too about like dynamics of, we're still learning this stuff, by dynamics of, and interacting with others and friends, and when conflict happens, all that stuff. But they're just constantly learning. And I feel like, depending what your life has looked like a little bit, you in your 20s, it feels like a lot of learning too. If you went to university, there's that, but then you come out of university, or maybe you didn't go to university and you just get your first job, or you jump into something. There's a lot of learning with that. It's like, oh, I have to pay bills now. Oh, I have this thing that I'm racing a career,
like be an adult.
Yeah, you have to suddenly be an adult. You may have to figure out how to make your own food for the first time. I mean, there's all these things that you're in this rapid learning succession during that time. And then my friend was telling me that then, like in your 30s, it kind of starts to slow down a little bit more usually. And then for us, it tends to drop off sometimes, that you're not learning that much. And it had me thinking, like, I don't want to be like that, first of all. I want to be challenging myself to learn new things all the time. And what does that look like then? And so for me right now, that is the driving lessons, but I also got, and I don't even know what it's called, for Veda and I think it's needlepoint. Is that what you would call it? It's
I don't know what you got.
Those little rings that you put the, clearly.
Cross stitch?
It might be cross stitch.
Maybe it's called something different here.
It might be called something different here, but I ordered some for Veda and I just to try, because I was like, I want to learn something new on that as well. I'm not a crafty person. Most people know that about me. Crafts is not my thing, and it's very funny being in a family that we have like bins filled with art stuff behind us over here. But I thought, maybe I would like to actually learn something. Let's try that. I have done a lot of talking on that whole subject. I want to hear from you on like what you're learning right now, and like how do you say what you're learning from learning?
Well, I think
without saying that word too much,
I think realizing, again, we're in our middle 40s, and so realizing
you're in your middle 40s.
I'm
not there yet.
Anyways, I think the big thing that I'm realizing is, like, it's really easy to get stuck into your routine, and feel like you have all the tools that you need, just to understand how to do life and to be comfortable. And again, because we're in such a unique stage with our kids, that we're kind of facilitating their learning processes, I think, if that makes any sense.
I mean, we're learning a lot about parenting.
So I think that, exactly, that's not stopping. But I think in a lot of times we get so focused on, at least at this time in this stage of our parenting or whatever, like, we're helping them facilitate the new things, right? Like, we want Veda to be learning, she's in a science club, she's in a sports club, she's doing an art club, she's trying all these things, right? But and so we're like trying to help facilitate and encourage her in those things and all that kind of stuff. But I think for us, because of that, I think sometimes, at this life stage, it's easy to then just kind of coast and not push into new things, or to push into learning something different, or trying new things, or whatever. And so I think because of the driving test that I had, just passed, and like things like that, that I think Maya and I both realized, like, we want to keep it sounds weird, but I want to keep my brain engaged. Like, I don't want it to
that's important too.
I don't want it to get static. And so, just doing little things here and there that might force us to think differently, or to learn something different, or doing Duolingo and learning a new language, which is extremely hard at our age, I think, if that's just how I feel.
It's so difficult. I mean, I can tell you, that a cow drinks the milk. I'm
Yeah.
not in Italian. I'm not sure how helpful that is.
But I think, stepping into some of those things, like, I think you really have to have a discipline. You really have to push yourself into them and to stick with it, because I think it's because of the routines and the comfortableness that we can get into. It's really easy just to quit it.
I just realized I said the cow drinks the milk. I don't think cows drink
Yeah,
milk.
I don't think cows drink milk. But
Sorry,
that's okay.
I am listening to you. Ignore what I said. It was the cow drinks the water is the one I just did.
That's gonna be a funny clip, to be honest. Like,
wow. Anyway,
I mean, so you can see we really don't edit these very often. So now you can see, like, we won't take that out, obviously.
oh please.
But yeah, so I just think I think realizing, being in my middle 40s, realizing I learned how to drive here, those kind of things, like, as nerve-wracking as that was in the moment and all that kind of stuff, I'm like so thankful that I did that. I learned how to do that. I'm pushing into it, and now there's like a new sense of freedom. And so I think that's potentially what could potentially happen if we potentially but that, I think, is something to think about when we're trying new things as we get older. There might be a new freedom, a new something that you can unlock in yourself, that could take you to a different, I don't know, level or understanding about who you are. And so I think that's what I really want to push into. Like, it's easy for me, like, to try different mediums and art and things like that. And so I don't know if that's necessarily pushing myself too far into learning something new, but it is something different. So I don't really do a lot of stuff with markers, and so I've been playing around with that. I got some of that stuff over Christmas and different things like that. But I think, again, it's more about pushing yourself into, I don't know, unlocking this new thought on things, or just this new freedom, this sense of freedom after learning something or trying something new.
Well, and I think too, not to put pressure on it. I mean, I'm putting pressure on the driving test because I would love to pass it.
I think that there's a different pressure with that, rather than if you don't get your license and you can't drive.
No, exactly.
Like, it's not like
what I'm
you're
trying to say
something and you fail.
Is I could get this needle point or cross stitch, or I don't even know what it's called, which is hilarious. And Vade and I both like, I don't really like it. That's okay too, but you tried something new. Like, I'm willing to try it and learn it to finish whatever this piece is, and I'll find out what it's called, that we got, and give it a go and see. And I think that's the thing, is like, it's also trying those things to figure out, like we talked about this when we talked about trying things in your business, of trying new things in your business is important, because you may find the thing that like really like is the thing that kind of ignites your business. And I think that is the same. I think we tend to believe that we've already figured that out, but like each season of our life brings on new things. And so for me, like, I really am enjoying, I've done yoga in the past, and I've hurt my back in the past not from yoga, but from other workouts and stuff. That's from a previous injury, of a whiplash injury from a car wreck and stuff. And so I've always been really scared of it. And like, I have found the right teacher and stuff that I like, that she does things in a way that I'm not feel like I'm doing things really quick, and I'm learning it and knowing that it all comes from my core and that kind of thing. And it does make me think when I'm doing that, because if I move a certain wrong way, I'm going to make my like injury come out and like get inflamed again and stuff like that. And so I have to be really careful and mindful of how I'm thinking through it. And I was talking to somebody recently, and they were talking about how this is something I want to start doing too, but I'm definitely not starting it when it's this cold. Is they were talking about starting doing more like wild swimming. That means here in the UK, at least, it's like mostly cold water swimming, because even when it's summer, the sea is still very cold. And so that's something I have like wanted to do for a while, and I keep putting it off because it starts to get colder. I'm like, I haven't really been training for it. I should do that, and that kind of thing. I love swimming. And so again, it's a skill that I would like to, I know how to swim. So that's not a new skill. It's the context of where you're doing the thing. So even changing that, changes things and that kind of thing. Or I've not really swam in cold water that much. I have, but not as much as maybe I feel like. I'm not going to go do a triathlon in cold water. That's not what I'm trying to get to. But I think just trying new things like that, and learning about it too, of like, why do I want to do that? Well, I know some of the health benefits of it, as well as I really enjoy swimming. And I think in a lot of those places too, where there's the cold water swimming, at least here in London and stuff, there's a cool community that forms and that kind of stuff too. And so, yeah, I think it's finding out the things you're interested in, and don't just say, because I'm XYZ age, I don't think I should do that anymore. I don't think that's true at all. I mean, I think...
I was just thinking about, too, like, you're talking about your past injury and things like that. I'm thinking about, like, just your past in general. Like, people might say certain things to you, or, you know, when you're younger, and so because of that, you haven't ever pushed into something or tried something that you might enjoy. Like, I was thinking, you know, I always struggled a little bit in English growing up, and so I didn't have, like, awful teachers, but they weren't like the most encouraging of like certain writing or things like that. And so in my mind, I've always been a bad writer. Like, I haven't been, quote unquote, been able to write. And so I was like having this email conversation back and forth with an author that I was doing a book cover for. And he was like, just go for it. Like, I was kind of in your same boat, you know, like somebody told me that I wasn't that great at writing either, but he's like written, I don't even know how many books it is now that he's written all these really amazing books. And so it's like, you know, why there are certain things that potentially could be in our past that we just need to unearth and be like, no, actually that isn't true about myself. Like, I need to give that a go. I want to see if that's, you know, not true, but like, I want to try that. I want to see, you know, what could potentially happen in that. And so, just even thinking about that as far as like...
Yeah, there are a lot of things that I think we carry into even this stage of life, and even later, if we don't look at them and say, like, is that actually true of me? And, you know, I'm not saying that I'm going to go pick up a pencil and I'm going to start drawing like that. I know that's not, like, possible. I mean, that right away. Sure, maybe I could learn to do it, and that kind of stuff. So I think it's, you know, taking it step by step. And I also think it is also telling yourself that just because I used to look at our age that we are at currently and be like, gosh, like, they're so old. Those people are so old. And I'm sure people who are that age, like our teenage son constantly is like, you guys are just old. And we're like, excuse me, we are actually not that. I do not feel middle-aged. Like, I do not feel that way. I mean, sometimes, but most of the time I do not feel that way. I still feel like I'm in my 20s or something like that. I don't act like I'm in my 20s anymore, thank heavens. But that, you know, that is the case. But I think what is really cool is to see people, and this goes for careers and stuff like that too. Like, just because you're in this one place doesn't mean you have to be there for the rest. To see, like, even the Golden Globes recently, and I do not know stars' names. I know their faces, and so I'm not going to try and say names. But some of the people that won are much older, and they didn't start doing things until they were older too. I know, I'm almost positive that Vera Wang didn't start designing stuff until she was in her 50s or 60s. And so, like, that show, or she may have started designing stuff but didn't have her first show or get into something until that age. And, like, look where, if you probably know that name, Vera Wang. And so it's stuff like that I think we just assume that something, I must be consuming something on my social media, because something came up of, it was like a 98-year-old woman, like the oldest gymnast or something like that. And she was on, the 2 bars that go like that.
Parallel bars?
Is that parallel bars?
Yeah, those are called the parallel bars.
Wow, I really should finish my tea before we record next time. Having a rough morning with it. But she was on parallel bars, like, doing all kinds of stuff, and she's 98. You know, and so it just was such... I think I must be consuming that stuff as a reminder of, like, life isn't over because you're in your mid-40s. And I think we are sold that sometimes of, like, your 20s and your 20s are the best. Your 30s are, you know, this time, and then you just kind of taper off after that because you're halfway through life. But life's not done. And so I think that's the encouraging, no matter if you're listening to this and you are like us, middle-aged, or you're older than us, or you're younger than us, I think it hopefully is a reminder to you of, like, learning new things is well worth it. Like, it enriches your life. It does that, but it also then challenges you in different ways. Like you said, keeps your mind thinking and fresh and stuff like that. And that's so important for lots of things for your future as well as we get older. And I think hopefully it's an example for our kids too.
Yeah, definitely.
I would hope that they aren't just,
just settle and...
Exactly.
I don't know what else to say, but that they don't see that. I hope that they don't see that in the example that we're setting for them. I hope that they don't see us and go, okay, well, they're just like coasting or whatever, if that makes any sense.
Even though they make fun of us sometimes for the things we're trying to learn. Like I just got an Apple Watch because I am tracking my movement and stuff like that. And when I do start swimming, because I'm going to do it, I want to be able to track that and stuff like that. But it took me like 2 days to figure out the watch, which our son thought was hilarious. He was like, "You seriously don't know how to do that yet?" And that kind of thing. And so some things take longer.
There were definitely some old comments, I think, in the last couple of days because of that.
I think I might have even said maybe I'm too old to figure this out. I don't believe that, but I did have a certain thing that I thought, why is this so hard? I'm just trying to link it so it understands my steps. But I figured it out. I learned it. I figured it out, and now I understand it. So anyways, we'd love to hear from you guys. What are things that you are learning? Because it is really fun to be with other people and hear some of the stuff that they are diving into and new skills they're learning. Our house has been filled with lots of different Duolingo. Some of us, you were like a rock star.
I was.
You need to get back into it.
Just fell off a cliff, and I haven't done it very much.
And it's interesting. It's interesting too because we have different reasons for different languages we're trying to learn and stuff like that. I don't think any of us are learning the same language, are we? Veda and I are both learning Italian together, but. Anyways, so we'd love to hear from you what you're learning, what language you're learning, what other things, or what's something that you hope to learn as well, that you are, like I said, like swimming. I don't think starting cold water swimming when it's, what is it today, -1? Oh, well, sorry, that's Celsius. That this may not be the best day to try it. I should probably work myself up to that.
Yeah. I mean, people still do it.
Oh, no, they do. I know. Yeah. I saw a video of someone doing it today in Hyde Park. So.
No, thanks.
I might do it eventually. Yeah. We'll get there slowly.
But I like warm pools. I like that. I like swimming in warm pools. So.
Pools.
Pools.
Anyways, we are so thankful for you guys listening in. We'd love to hear from you on what you're learning and what you any takeaways you have from this whole thinking of how we keep learning throughout our lives. And we will talk to you guys next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.